Just ahead on First Look Asia, traveling for more than just R&R. That's rest and recreation. We meet a holiday maker. You knew that. Yeah, okay. Who volunteers at an elephant sanctuary to learn more about the creatures. That's coming up right after this break. Welcome back to First Look Asia on this Thursday morning. When it comes to vacations these days, we're spoiled for choice.
Oh, yes, we are.
Apart from the usual sightseeing tours, themed holidays, shopping trips, and culinary excursions, they're all emerging as trends too.
But also becoming more popular are holidays which include some form of learning. And here to tell us more about such meaningful travel are Aaron Hung, TripAdvisor's Senior Director of Partnerships Asia Pacific, and traveler Shanta Arul. Now, Aaron, tell us more about these holidays. Why are people signing up for these learning trips?
Well, because these days people tend to be traveling more based on experience rather than based on destination. In fact, we did a recent survey with our users across Southeast Asia, and 70% of them said they would go on a learning holiday. And out of the 70%, 40% of them said they would look for arts and culture when they go to a destination. But learning these days is not really about sitting in a classroom.
That's right.
For example, you could really immerse yourself into something fun. You can go on a balloon ride, fly over Bagan, look at 2,000 pagodas below you early in the morning. All you hear is the sound of the engine, of the whoosh of the fire, your own breathing early in the morning, and you just look down, and the pilot would explain to you the history, the heritage of the pagodas.
Is this something that's quite popular with a younger crowd, with an older crowd, with a family crowd? Who are actually wanting these sorts of experiences?
Well, everybody really. Because once you've traveled a few times, you want to go deeper, understand the culture, learn and interact with the people. And these days, once you booked your hotel, you got your restaurant where to eat, when you get to destination, you open your app and say, let's book an experience, let's book a tour and see what we can do and learn something.
Now, Shanta, let's bring you into this conversation too. You went on a learning holiday recently. Tell us more about that.
Well, I've been volunteering with an NGO called the Save Elephant Foundation since 2013, and it really started with me getting a small bonus at work and wanting to do something a bit meaningful with it. So I found out about this project, and Save Elephant Foundation has a number of projects across Southeast Asia. Its first one is called Elephant Nature Park in Chiang Mai, and the whole goal of this foundation is to rescue and rehabilitate abused elephants in the region, and I fell in love with the experience, and I've been going back ever since to the park as well as to other projects.
How long was your first trip?
It was a week. Typically volunteers go for a week or a bit longer if they want, and they help with the day-to-day maintenance of the park, feeding the elephants, cutting corn, and so for context, an elephant eats about 200 kg of food a day. So there's a lot of chopping, there's a lot of going out to the plantations, some construction work, helping clear the elephant shelters. You get to bathe them.
Yeah, nothing glamorous about that at all.
Well, you know, when you're in the presence of these giants, it's a majestic experience, and I mean that's part of holidays like this. It's not necessarily a luxury trip. You're there for a cause and for a purpose and to learn as well.
So when you decided on going on this experience, did you have to do a lot of research as to how you're going to pick this place, or were you concerned with safety issues, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing with trips like this is doing research into, you know, what this organization is about. And when they have a mission, you know, an environmental mission or purpose, you want to make sure, the responsibility, I think, is on the traveler to make sure that that's really what they're doing. The money that you're channeling to these organizations is going towards supporting that cause or mission. The activities are actually helping that purpose. One of the things I saw when as I've been going to Chiang Mai over the years is since the Elephant Nature Park became quite popular, a lot of riding camps have been using marketing taglines like eco-friendly and we're not abusing elephants, but they're still riding camps, and riding is actually quite an abusive practice. So the onus is on you to actually go beyond the marketing tagline to find out more about the organization and get that research done.
Well, I want to talk about costs as well, Aaron. I mean, these learning holidays, they seem quite extensively planned. Do they cost significantly more than the usual R&Rs?
Not necessarily. Well, if you book another tour, for example, I was in Barcelona and I booked a tour with a photographer. A local photographer is professional. He brings me to little nooks and crannies around the back streets, some Barcelona, in Elborn, and you see all these rays, sunlight that comes through buildings. You know, the experience of immersing yourself and participating in a local part of culture is really worth the money. But it doesn't necessarily have to cost anything. For example, in Yangon has a very vibrant modern art scene. And it's still a city where you can actually visit artists in their studios, in galleries, and when you talk to artists. And because of the recent history of Myanmar, the artists have a very interesting perspective about life, about society. And when they describe their art to you, there is so much more you understand about not only the works itself, but also the society. So all that is free. But now these days, you know, on the app, you can choose so many different tours and you can compare prices.
Are people pushing the boundaries as well? Do you want to have an experience that only 2 or 3 people have gone through? Are there more bespoke type experiences that people are wanting that we don't know about?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. There are very, very bespoke experience. But even when you go on a tour that you can book online, it can be very, very small group. So, for example, recently I was on a cycle tour. I love cycling because I need to. You know. And my wife said, you need to cycle. So we go on a cycling tour in Tuscany. So I was only drawn by the wine and the food in the countryside.
So you cycle to eat, and cycle to drink.
And then we were cycling with this guy who's 65, who is an Italian guy. He is so trim and fit. He's fitter than you, Lance. And
well, you don't have to go very far to get better than me. Okay,
it was going in the countryside, and it was really so hard, that cycling. You're thinking, okay, at the end of the cycling, there's this nice dinner that I can go to, sitting under the trees in Tuscany, looking at the countryside. And then I later found out that route was really popular with Tour de France races. That's why it was so hard. People that we were talking to, they were so surprised that my wife and I, who weren't particularly fit, was actually trying this route. So it was only 2 of us.
Cool.
So it's fairly bespoke. It was made for us to kind of become more fit, and there was nice food at the end of it.
I can't complain about that.
Double bonus, yeah. Shanta, what did this recent trip teach you? Would you recommend it to other people out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, these sort of experiences make you think about issues that you may not have thought about before, and also, you know, in this context about the environment and animals, and what's your role in contributing to some of the issues today. And it's not just about animal rights, it's about what you buy, you know, your day-to-day activities that you don't necessarily think about. You know, when I came back from the Cambodia trip, I had spent a week showering with a bucket of water, and then I come back home and I switch on the shower and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of water that I waste, right? And it's much bigger than that, and it makes you think about your role and how you can make little changes to your life to try and, you know, enact more positive change. And the other thing is also the people you meet on these trips.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's not just, you know, spending time with the elephants, but also you've got new experiences because you're meeting people.
Like-minded individuals.
Yes,
and they're
like-minded. Who love to share their experiences with you too.
Yeah, they're like-minded, but I've met people from all over the world, and I've kept in touch with a lot of them over the years. And in fact, many of them are good friends. And I've got a friend, Kim, who I met on the first trip, and since she lives in Scotland, I live in Singapore, and every year we actually meet back at the park or one of the projects, and it's quite a special experience to build relationships like that.
Do the elephants remember you?
I would like to think so.
I would like to say you've got incredible memories. So do they look at you and say, Shanta's back?
I believe so. There's nothing quite as special as looking into the eyes of an elephant. They are such beautiful, intelligent creatures, and you can see through them.
What do you think is the next big thing on this learning holiday journeys?
Ooh,
Any
that's
ideas,
a tough
guys?
one, I bet.
Do you practice yoga?
Not really.
Oh no.
And you still say so. Well, my yoga teacher keeps recommending me to take up this 200-hour teacher training course.
Okay.
When meanwhile I'm just trying to touch my toes, right? A lot of people take up yoga. Well, a lot of people practice yoga. They take up yoga training, 200 hours, and there's this place in Bali, in Ubud, that I've been reading about. That you just surrounded by paddy fields, open space, while learning to teach yoga.
Always leave me wonderlusting every time, Aaron. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we've been speaking with Aaron Hung, TripAdvisor's Senior Director of Partnerships, Asia Pacific, and traveler Shanta Arul.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
On that note, we are done for today.